I'm now reading about high-powered traveling companions on Air Force One. As Air Force One made its way from Washington to Johannesburg Monday, a president, a former president, and a possible future president were all traveling aboard. The high-powered traveling partners came together for a transcontinental trip to South Africa for a memorial service honoring Nelson Mandela, the former South African leader who died last week at the age of 95. The unusual manifest required some creative seating arrangements on the presidential plane. Obama and Michelle Obama occupied the president's stateroom at the front of the plane. Former President George W. Bush and wife Laura were settled nearby in the plane's medical suite, which can function as an operating room, and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, a potential candidate for president in 2016, was given a spot in a cabin normally occupied by senior staff. The plane's spacious conference room served as a gathering spot for the former president and three first ladies, with the current commander-in-chief popping in between in-flight meetings and calls, and there was no shortage of time for catching up. The flight from Washington to Johannesburg was scheduled to span about 16 hours, including a 1-hour refueling stop in Dakar, Senegal. It's a very, I think, enjoyable experience, certainly for the president and the first lady, said White House spokesman Jay Carney, and they're both grateful to be able to have former president and first lady, former secretary of state on board. For Bush, the flight marked the first time he had stepped foot on Air Force One since leaving the presidency nearly 5 years ago. He and the former First Lady were already on board the plane in Washington when Obama arrived, skipping an on-camera greeting with the current president and First Lady. Bush has purposely tried to stay out of the public eye since leaving office, but he wandered back to the plane's press cabin for too lengthy of the record conversations with reporters, returning the second time with Laura Bush in tow. Clinton is no stranger to the presidential plane, having traveled aboard Air Force One frequently as both First Lady and Secretary of State, and many Democrats have visions of her making many more trips aboard the plane, though they hope she'll be the one occupying the front cabin. The White House invited all of the living American presidents to travel to South Africa on Air Force One. Former Presidents Bill Clinton and Jimmy Carter were instead traveling on their own, while 89-year-old George H.W. Bush was unable to attend the memorial because he can no longer travel far distances. I'm now reading about NSA. Morale reportedly hits rock bottom after Snowden revelations. Employees at the National Security Agency aren't happy that we now know to look out for their trash-talking elves that they have created in World of Warcraft. The Washington Post reports that officials at the NSA are feeling depressed and demoralized by the constant stream of revelations being leaked by former contractor Edward Snowden and are also feeling hung out to dry by a White House that has spent most of its time trying to contain political damage caused by the Snowden leaks. Essentially, the Post sources said that the NSA thinks that it's providing some of the most valuable intelligence in the United States battle against terrorism, and that it deserves recognition for its efforts instead of calls for more restraint. Of course, the NSA's activities wouldn't be getting so much scrutiny if they only were upsetting to civil liberties advocates. The reason the NSA's data collection practice have raised such a firestorm is because they have angered key American allies and have hurt major American tech companies who are losing business among foreign governments and companies that are wary of their ties to the U.S. government. So while the ACLU and the EFF might not get the White House and Congress's attention, lobbying from Microsoft, Google, and Apple certainly will. Now reading about amazing creature sculptures with scrap metal. An amazing artist transforms scrap metal into incredible sculptures of insects, birds, fish, and other animals. Adored Martinet from Brittany, France, creates the sculptures from all manner of salvaged parts and junk, including car and bicycle parts, typewriters, and medical equipment. The 50-year-old has been fascinated by insects from the age of 10 when one of his teachers was obsessed by the crawling creatures. Martinet has been named the art world's virtuoso insectophile and has been known to work on a sculpture for 17 years. When missing a vital component to artistic perfection, each intricate insect takes about a month for Edward to create and he works on 2 or 3 models at a time. I'm now reading about Wangerfeld's Arsenal Merit Title recognition. Arsenal manager Arsene Wenger believes that his side's 5-point lead at the top of the Premier League table means that it is impossible to ignore their credentials as title contenders. British media pundits have predicted that Wenger's men will fail to go the distance this season, and the Frenchman himself is usually circumspect about his team's targets. Sunday's 1-1 draw with Everton at the Emirates Stadium left the North London club 5 points clear of nearest rivals Liverpool and Chelsea, but they face a challenging run of fixtures. After visiting Napoli in the Champions League on Wednesday, they go to fourth place Manchester City in the league next weekend, and then host Chelsea on December 23rd. It is a sequence of matches that threatens to expose any limitations that Arsenal may have, but Wenger says that his players should draw encouragement from their performances to date. Asked if his side should now be considered serious title contenders, he replied, "It depends what you call serious. As long as we are 5 points ahead, we cannot rule us out, even with the best desire. It shows you that it will be a tough Premier League, that the constancy in the end will be rewarded. The constancy is of course down to us to keep this attitude until the end of the season. Arsenal were on course to move 7 points clear when Mesut Ozil put them ahead in the 80th minute, only for Everton substitute Gerard Deulofeu to give his side a share of spoils 4 minutes later. Wenger conceded that Everton deserved credit for their reaction, but he felt that Roberto Martinez's side were fortunate to escape censure for some robust challenges. I believe the problem is that they put a very good pressure on us when we got the ball back to stop our flow," he said. "I just felt that when we got out of the pressure and got into the passing, they stopped us every time with the foul. The disadvantage of putting the pressure so high is that if you are not winning the ball back, you can be outnumbered after that. And to be just making a foul without being punished by a referee is a huge advantage, because after that you play 10 against 10 in one half again." After impressing in Everton's recent 4-0 win over Stoke City, Deulofeu gave another illustration of his talent with the equalizer, slipping away from Kieran Gibbs and rifling home from a narrow angle. The 19-year-old forward is on a season-long loan from Barcelona, and Martinez revealed that the deal could be extended for further season. There is an opportunity. We have got an agreement that it could be extended an extra year, as long as the partner clubs don't need the player, said the Everton manager. Having seen his side win 1-0 at Manchester United in midweek, Martinez feels that Everton have now lost their mental block about playing against the country's biggest sides. He also reserves praise for 20-year-old male. He also reserved praise for 20-year-old midfielder Ross Barkley, who produced an assured performance in the number 10 role, but sought to ease the pressure on a player who is considered a potential World Cup star for England. I've never seen an England player with that sort of mentality, and I've had the privilege to work with many youngsters, he said. I've seen Ross Barkley. At times I see a bit of Ballack. At times I see bits of Paul Gascoigne. Technically, he's someone that you could compare against any other nation in terms of young Brazilians or Dutch or even Spanish players. As a country, we need to be a little bit more protective of our youngsters, because we're talking about someone that, if we look after him properly, he could give us something unique. He could give us something unique into the English game. I'm now reading about Israel Jordan Palestinians Inc. water sharing deal. Israel, Jordan, and the Palestinians signed a historic water sharing initiative at the World Bank in Washington Monday that could protect water resources in the region amid rising demand. The project envisions a new desalination plant at Aqaba as the linchpin of a sharing deal involving end users in all three parties to the deal. It gives a glimmer of hope that we can overcome more obstacles in the future, said Sylvan Shalom, Israel's Minister of Energy and Water Resources at the scene. We showed that we can work together despite the political problems, said the Palestinian Water Minister Shadak Atli. The deal kept 11 years of negotiations and came as the United States pushes a new effort to forge a peace deal between the Israelis and Palestinians. The pact, signed at the World Bank's headquarters in Washington, with the Jordan providing 50 million cubic liters of desalinated water to Israel's Red Sea resort of Eilat. In exchange, the Jewish state will provide northern Jordan with the same amount of water from the Sea of Galilee. It will also see Israel raising its annual sales of water to the Palestinian Authority by 20 to 30 million cubic meters a year, up from the current level of 52 million cubic meters. The World Bank said the project is limited in scale and design designed to accomplish two objectives: to provide new water to a critically water-short region, and the opportunity under scientific supervision to better understand the consequences of mixing Red Sea and Dead Sea waters. According to Shalom, the project will go to international tender to build a desalination plant in Aqaba and lay the first of the 4 pipes for transporting the water. An environmental group, Friends of the Earth Middle East, EME, said the project as outlined has significant problems, including the handling of the brine from the desalination plant. The plan envisions experimenting with mixing the brine with water in the Dead Sea. Gideon Bromberg, Israeli director of the group, noted that World Bank studies had found that introducing Red Sea brine could have detrimental impacts on the Dead Sea's fragile ecosystem. It will also increase the cost of desalinating water in Aqaba by 30%, and it will maintain the protest of the environmental groups, he said. I'm now reading about North Korea accuses Kim Jong-un's uncle of corruption. North Korea confirmed Monday that the powerful uncle of young leader Kim Jong-un has been purged, with state TV airing humiliating images of Jang Song-saik being dragged away by uniformed officers. The official news agency KCNA accused the man once seen as the power behind the throne of being a corrupt, drug-taking womanizer bent on building his own faction in the ruling party. One South Korean analyst predicted a sweeping purge would follow, leaving Kim as the undisputed center of power. KCNA said Jang, once seen as his nephew's mentor, had been stripped of all his posts and of party membership for committing criminal acts and leading a counter-revolutionary faction. It said the decision was taken Sunday at the high-level meeting of the ruling Workers' Party attended by Kim. State TV Monday showed photos of Jang being dragged out of his seat at the meeting by 2 officers, an extremely rare publication of humiliating images involving a senior official. It was not certain if the incident happened at Sunday's meeting, but the TV aired other photos from Sunday showing a stony-faced Kim sitting at the podium with other top officials. Analysts said John's main role had been to ensure a smooth transition after inexperienced Kim Jong-un came to power following the death of his father, Kim Jong Jr., in December 2011. But they said John had become increasingly resented by the leader, who is aged about 30. Jong-un has built a solid power base for the past 2 years, and he no longer needed a regent who appeared to be increasingly powerful and threatening, said Park Hak-soon, a researcher at the South Sejong Institute think tank. South Korea's spy agency said last week that John had apparently been purged and 2 associates executed in the secretive nation's biggest political upheaval since the death of Kim Jong Jr. KCNA said the meeting on Sunday confirmed it had eliminated John and purged his group, unable to remain an onlooker to its acts any longer. The regime said it removed John and his associates for trying to build a faction within the party, and for appointing his followers to top positions to serve his own political ends. The KCNA report said John had improper relations with several women and was wined and dined at back parlors of deluxe restaurants, becoming affected by the capitalist way of living. Ideologically sick and extremely idle and easygoing, used drugs and squandered foreign currency at casinos while he was receiving medical treatment in a foreign country under the care of the party. It said John was also accused of hindering North Korea's state-run production of iron, fertilizers, and vanillin, a homemade synthetic fiber, by selling off resources at cheap price and throwing the state financial management system into confusion. Storm of purge coming. Kim Jong-un's takeover was the second dynastic succession in a family that has ruled the isolated nuclear-armed state since 1948 through a pervasive personality cult and with an iron fist. John has fallen out of favor before. In 2004, he was understood to have undergone re-education as a steel mill laborer because of suspected corruption, but he made a comeback the following year. John expanded his influence rapidly after Kim Jong Jr. suffered a stroke in 2008, leaving his health impaired. He was appointed vice chairman of the nation's top body, the Nation Defense Commission, in 2010.